Okay, so this is going to be my second attempt because the first attempt didn't upload, and I've now wasted those 30 minutes of my life. So I'm going to try again. Hi. What we're going to try to do today is go through rhetorical analysis, and to do that, I'm going to give you some tips, and I'm going to go through an example start to the essay. So rhetorical analysis is one of the 3 AP test essays that you can choose from. This year, however, since you're only doing the one, you only have one essay. You do not have a choice. It's rhetorical analysis. Rhetorical analysis explores the why and how of an essay rather than the what. A what is a summary. What did the author say? Rhetorical analysis asks why did they write it and how did they write it? How did they write it to serve their purpose? So to illustrate that, what we're going to go through is an example using Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. You can see I've already started it, and so we'll speed things up by restarting. So let me create a little text box. Insert box table. Okay, so let's take some notes. When you're reading, your text is probably going to be longer than this. This text is probably like, I want to say, a third to half as long as what you might see on the actual test. But it serves our purposes here fine, especially since my goal is to make this recording significantly shorter, so we'll upload without crashing. So here we have Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. One of the ways you can earn sophistication, which is one of the 6 points you can earn. 1 point is for establishing a solid claim. 4 points can be earned for your use of evidence and analysis. And then that 6th point is sophistication. One of the ways you can earn sophistication is by considering the rhetorical situation, which is another word for context. What is the context of the piece? That's one way you can earn sophistication. Another is through the complexity of your writing. That's more difficult to aim for, but those of you who have been following along in your history classes may recognize some of these texts and their origins, and then you can bring in some of that information. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So anyways, when you're reading, my recommendation is that as you're reading, you consider Soapstone. Soapstone is an acronym that stands for speaker, occasion, audience, purpose, subject, and tone. Now, you notice this wasn't spelled correctly. I have a built-in spell check here on Google Docs. I am using the Grammarly extension. So you can install a Grammarly extension. It's free, and you don't even have to have your logged in account. It will automatically continue to do spell check stuff for you. It does spelling and grammar. It's an easy tool to include for when you're working on your essay. Now, speaker. This is who is speaking and or writing. The roles may vary. In this instance, we have Abraham Lincoln, so he is president, but he's not just president, he is president of the United States, specifically the North, given the Civil War. Occasion. The occasion on this one matters. Gettysburg was a battle, so they're at the battlefield, and he is he's addressing the whole nation. The Civil War is ending. Audience. This is where it gets more complex. His audience for this is clearly the people there, American citizens, and Civil War veterans. But it goes beyond that because he understands as president giving this post-war speech, he is addressing not just the people of the North, but also the people of the South. So he's addressing both, which gets to his purpose. The Gettysburg Address is one of the more famous pieces of American writing because it is so well written for its purpose. It's not a miracle. It's not poetry. It's not the best or most beautiful thing ever written, but it serves Abraham Lincoln's purpose really well. His purpose is to commemorate the dead Other words I can use would be memorialize, recognize, honor, and to enlist citizens from the North and South, the Union and the Confederacy, whatever word you want to use. But his purpose is twofold. He needs to commemorate the dead. He's at a battlefield, and it's the end of the Civil War. He needs to commemorate the people who just died. That's the original purpose. But he then uses this as a way to bring together the United States, to unify the United States after the end of the Civil War. His subject, I mean, that one's pretty straightforward. It's the dead soldiers and their cause, which we'll get to in a sec. And then tone. He's serious. He's solemn. Alright. Spelled that wrong. So now that we've got that, I need to start determining what are some things that I can piece together from this. I could do ethos, pathos, logos, but those are all vague. Those don't mean anything by themselves. So I can ask myself, how does he establish credibility? How does he establish pathos? And so one of the things, which I'll steal from here, is he used... Oh. Let's take this. Before we get started, I can use tone. For tone, I should have expanded, and I did previously. Syntax is the structure of their sentences or grammar. An example of that would be parallelism. So here I give you an example of parallelism. As his Valentine is ripped to pieces, so too was his heart. Another example would be inverted, which you won't see, but that might be wise and serious Lincoln is, if I wanted to be Yoda. I mean, you guys are familiar with the different types of syntax. If you need to review them, go back and review them. But I might point that out as one of the ways that he conveys his message or his tone. Another one is loaded language. This is his word choice or diction. Word choice or diction may be used in a number of ways, but it is primarily used to establish pathos. An example I'm going to use is, where are they? I lost them. Consecrate, hallow. These are religious words. Consecration and hallow represent the ideas of holiness, that something is set apart, that it is special, and that it is now pure for whatever has happened. So consecrated, hallowed ground is biblical language that people at the time would have been familiar with, but it's religious language in general. So I'm going to use that idea of consecration, of hallowed language. So it's word usage. So here I have an example that I'll copy and paste in. Lincoln uses biblical and religious language, such as consecrate and hallow, to note the sanctity of Gettysburg after the sacrifice made by the men who died in battle there. Lincoln, 14. So I'm using the line that I cite from right here. So now I've identified an example of his word choice. Now that I've done the what, he uses these words, I need to explain the how and why. The use of this language is intended to both honor the soldier's sacrifice, getting back to his purpose, and to note what they've done in pursuit of a stronger, more fair nation will be unparalleled by the people to come. The audience listening is being asked to take a stand to reflect the liberties originally promised to all men. The sacrifice made already shows the extent to which others have already gone, and pushes the audience to go do likewise. Making sacrifices, if necessary, by standing up for these freedoms matters. I was doing this in a time crunch, so the language isn't perfect, but the point remains. Lincoln's using this language as a way of acknowledging what's happening and pushing people to respond. If this is holy territory and we believe that, then we need to treat this place with respect, the people with respect, and one of the ways we would do that is through our actions, which is taking what's happened and moving forward. So I can clarify that if I wanted to make a change. Let's strike through this. I'm italicizing it. If you're watching the video, that'll make sense. So rather than delete it for people who want to continue to look at it, the link at the bottom of this video allows you to come to this document so you can follow along. I should have said that up front. I can say Lincoln is suggesting that the sacrifice by these soldiers has made this site holy, and that to demonstrate respect for these fallen soldiers would be to take action and further the cause of freedom for all men that they had died for. Or I can say, instead of ending with for, I can say for which they had died. Still, not a perfect paragraph, but it's fine. So that's an example of loaded language. So now looking through here again, what other things do I see? Well, earlier today, I decided that there is a sense of patriotism. So I can say that there is an appeal to a shared sense of patriotism. Bringing them together with an appeal to shared sense of patriotism, he's referencing the founding of the nation, and he alludes to the Constitution with the idea that all men are created equal. I could expand this into a paragraph in which I talk about the pathos of patriotism, specifically patriotism, not pathos, because pathos is a category, not a thing. Patriotism here would be, hey, whether you're from the north or the south, like we still share these American values, and that's what I'm trying to hit upon because I'm using shared language. I'm saying liberty, something people believe in, the founding of our nation, which is something that people have been proud of. All men are created equal. Whether or not you're on either side, that's part of the Constitution that you originally adhered to. And then I can talk about this nation under God. Like, this is shared language regardless of which side of the Civil War you're on, and I could refer to that in building a paragraph. In this instance, I didn't. Instead, I decided to go with the brevity of his writing. So, brevity, briefness, how does that work? Well, Lincoln keeps his speech brief because he's keeping in mind his audience. His audience is likely uneducated, and a brief message can be more easily printed and shared nationwide. That's a jump, but that's an example of something that you can observe and make note of that isn't something that's ethos, pathos, or logos. It's about the structure of his writing. If it's a two-line poem, there's very much purpose in the fact that the author decided to only write 2 lines. Was it because it's an insignificant thing? Is it because that it's poignant? Or is it something that's supposed to be memorized? There's often a purpose to how far someone chooses to go. In this instance, Lincoln planned very little in advance. He wrote this on the back of a napkin, and a lot of it was planned within the moment, but it still serves its purpose because it's short. Continuing, a shorter, more concise message is also less likely to meander and lose its focus. Lincoln wanted to commemorate the sacrifice of the dead, while also plead for Americans to reunite under a common banner with the goal of increasing personal freedoms and rights for all men. The briefness of his speech is a factor in its immortality among American rhetoric. It was shared widely, and its message is sensitive to the fact the speech was delivered as a sort of eulogy, not as a political rally. He's talking about dead people. This speech can't be 20 minutes about his vision for America. That's not the purpose. He needs to be mindful of his audience. So that's what I say. And then finally, we've got a call to action. So the end here, Lincoln at the end of his speech implores his audience to not let the soldiers' deaths be in vain. I cite the page number. Lincoln intends to guilt his audience into recognizing the sacrifices were made so that those living could enact the changes that participating soldiers believed in. Lincoln then continues to push his audience into action by referencing the freedom he believes they should support. Lincoln wants his audience to take the proverbial torch by being the recipients of this new nation and to live into accordance with the beliefs of fallen soldiers. He believes that there is a new birth of freedom. The responsibility lies with the living to complete the unfinished work of these soldiers. Lincoln calls his audience to take on this responsibility and to pursue a free nation on behalf of those dead soldiers. If anything, that paragraph feels like there's a lot more summarizing than analysis, but I could wrap it up with a little more analysis by saying, using both guilt and directly imploring his audience, Lincoln is seeking to use this moment as a pivot for American history, one in which he suggests his audience will take a cue from those fallen and make a change. All right, so with all that said, it's time for me to construct my my claim. This is one way of doing it. If I knew that I was going to hit on these 3 points already, if I knew I was going to hit on these 3 points already, then I could construct my claim earlier. So here is my claim. In his Gettysburg Address, President Abraham Lincoln seeks to memorialize the fallen soldiers and unify a warring nation. That's all context. He strategically uses religious language, the brevity of his message, and leverages guilt to galvanize his audience into taking steps to reform the United States into a place with greater freedom. This is his purpose. This is his context. This is how he does it. He strategically uses religious language. He speaks with brevity, and he leverages guilt. Leverages guilt is pathos. Religious language is pathos. Brevity of his language, that's strategic, and it doesn't fall within either of those 3 categories. But that's an example of something he's done. For context, I then said, and you can read it yourself, it's here. You can pause the video if you want to read it for yourself. But I explain the complexity of the situation. This is my bid, my attempt to earn the sophistication point by explaining what had happened, why is Abraham Lincoln writing, and how is he trying to address that throughout his speech. And then I deliver my claim. Given the context, this is what Abraham Lincoln is trying to do with his speech. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here because maybe my original video will process and will go through. I don't think it will. But this is a rundown of what it might look like to perform your own rhetorical analysis essay. As a reminder, focus on the why and how. Why is the author doing that? How are they doing it? Don't just say, this is what they're doing. That's what. That's summarizing. Analysis is exploring for what purpose are they doing those things. I believe in you guys. You guys can do well. I wish you the best. Good luck. If you have any questions between now and 11 on Wednesday, definitely please reach out.